Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, depending where you are joining us. This is Alimaa with Peregrine Global Services, and I'd like to thank you for joining us in today's webinar on assessing and developing soft skills. This is a repeat of a live webinar we've just held a couple weeks ago, and due to overwhelming response, we're holding it with two more sessions today and another one tomorrow. So if you have any team members who were not able to join us today, please check out the registration information for them to join in our tomorrow's meeting. So first, let me introduce you to my colleagues here and your panelists. With me today are my colleagues Christina Perry and Denise Elbert. And ladies, please introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Christina Perry, and I love working with my colleague Alimaa, but she's clear across the country in Washington, D.C. I'm in Gillette, Wyoming, and I had a pretty big part in developing this soft skill assessment. So I'm joining in. Alimaa will be talking about really its application in higher ed, and I'll be talking to the process of how it works. So very nice to be here.
And good morning. My name is Denise Elbert, and I'm one of 5 client service managers at Peregrine. We work really closely with you and your students in setting up your services and providing technical support. Today, I'm going to be monitoring the questions and chat box if you do have any questions that you'd like to share, and making sure that we answer all of them before we close today from this webinar. So we're glad you're here and enjoy the information today.
Great, thank you, ladies. And I'm delighted to join you in this hour. Again, my name is Alimaa Jamiyansuren. I'm the Director of Partner Relations here at Peregrine. I'll be providing with you with a little background and discuss why did we develop the soft skills assessment, how it connects to the overall higher education needs. As Christina mentioned, she'll be talking about the features and implementation. And then Christina and I will go over the reporting capabilities, right? Using the results to help your learners to develop the soft skills and competencies and improve your programmatic learning outcomes. So the plan is for today to spend about 30 to 35 minutes covering the content, and we do want, as Denise mentioned, to leave about 15 minutes for Q&A session. So if you come up with a question during the presentation, as Denise mentioned, you can type them into the question or the chat box, or you can save them until the end for the Q&A session, which will be managed by Denise. A couple housekeeping items before we dive in. So we are recording this webinar, and at the end of the webinar, our colleagues will be following up with you with the demo site tutorial, and also link to the video recording will be happily emailed to you at a later time. We have uploaded 3 documents for you to download and review them at a later time, and those documents are a brochure providing an overview of the assessment tool, a sample instrument report illustrating what an assessment instrument could look like, and a sample participant report. We also have a 1-question survey at the end of the webinar. So if you could take time to answer that 1-question survey and complete it, we would appreciate it very much. Now, because of COVID, we have been having some bandwidth and occasional internet disconnection issues. So if one of us drops, you will know why. But there are 3 of us, so we would be able to get it going. So, and with that, let's give you a little introduction as to who we are. And I see many of you are very familiar with Peregrine because you are coming from client institutions. But for those of you, maybe your different departments are using our services, or you just might be brand new to Peregrine, we are Peregrine Global Services. So Peregrine Global Services consists of 4 divisions: Peregrine Academic Services, Peregrine Leadership Institute, Peregrine Global Foundation, a nonprofit division, and the Pathways is the publication arm. We first started as a leadership development company, organizing workshops and training seminars all throughout the US and the world. And internationally, we have worked in many countries, including Poland, South Africa, and Mongolia. And I was personally delighted to be part of the South Africa and the Mongolia development teams. Now, through this work, we have accumulated a wealth of experience in developing leaders, evaluating and helping them build their interpersonal and leadership and soft skills and competencies. Our academic services division is focused on contributing to the improvement of the quality of higher education. So we wanted to bring this experience and expertise from developing leaders into higher education. So together, we are catalysts for change, and together we bring positive change to the world. So we developed the EvaluSkills, a tool to assess the soft skills, right? And then I wanted to start the webinar out with a question, a simple question. And so if you could answer them, we would appreciate it very much. So the question I have is, do you have a some sort of a soft skills assessment, right? And there's yes and there's no. At this point, we are trending 50 to 50 with the little changes up and down, going in one direction or the other. And so, well, let me close out and share the results. So it's 53% of you do have some sort of soft skills assessment, and 48% of you answered no, you don't have it. So then we want to ask, why assess soft skills of the learner, right? So then many of your mission statements say to graduate career-ready learners. You have development of learner soft skills integrated into your academic curriculum. You have stated learning outcomes related to developing critical thinking and various interpersonal skills. And the big one, employers are asking more and more from colleges to improve on the students' career readiness skills while they are in school. So then how do you know if you are fulfilling your mission? Graduating learners ready for employment if your curriculum delivers development of these skills.
Alimaa,
Well, yeah.
excuse me, I just wanted to let you know we're still seeing the poll results.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you for letting me know. Oh, hide. All right. Are you able to see the slides?
Yes, now we're back to your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, good, good. Um, Thank you, Christina, for that. So then we were talking about then why would you assess the soft skills, right? You would assess these soft skills to fulfill your regional and specialized programmatic accreditors requirements, right? Compliance. You also help satisfy employer expectations. You also want to demonstrate achievement in proficiency, for example, of NACE competencies, and then provide learners with actionable feedback for continued skill development. So we developed the EvaluSkills, right? This soft skills assessment tool using a 360-degree evaluation that has been adopted in the business and industries around the world. The 360 evaluation uses the perspective of peers, instructors, advisors, and including self-evaluations too. Now, most importantly, as with our other assessment services, the value comes in the reporting of the objective and accurate measures. The value comes in being able to receive actionable data, analytics, and metrics. One of the frameworks with which our EvaluSkills assessment aligns really well is the NACE's competencies associated with career readiness, which was developed by the National Association of Colleges and Employers in collaboration with College Career Services and the human resources and staffing professionals. Now, our EvaluSkills assessment tool provides a rich database of 250 plus distinct soft skills or competencies. You actually select from this database of soft skills and create a unique customized evaluation that maps to your curriculum and your learning goals. Now, each soft skill comes with its own evaluation rubrics with built-in sample behaviors to make it more objective, right, and take the subjectivity out of the evaluation process. Now, EvaluSkills directly measures proficiency levels and attainment of essential career readiness skills and competencies, and provides a participant an action plan and the measurement of key learning outcomes. EvaluSkills also addresses directly the top missing soft skills identified by the 2019 study by the Society of Human Resource Management. It offers a tool that measures essential workplace skills and improve your students' performance. And we talked about, as with all of our services, the EvaluSkills assessment tool has the accreditation focus as well. And it measures programmatic and institutional learning goals related, in this example, in the case of AACSB, to Standard 9, which is curriculum content development. We work very closely with the major programmatic accrediting associations, AACSB. IACB here actually has clearly identified and defined key learning outcomes related to critical thinking, teamwork, communication, and leadership, which all are part of our database of soft skills. Now, in case of the ACBSP, ACBSP is a non-prescriptive and a mission-driven accreditor. So you will be measuring the learning goals related to career readiness skills of your graduates that fulfill your institutional and programmatic mission statements. I've noticed a number of you have healthcare administration programs and public management programs. So we also work closely with the CAMI, an accreditor of Masters in Health Administration programs, and also AUPHA, an association of programs in public health. So there are many ways you can implement this assessment into your programs, right? The same is our other online educational offerings. You can embed the EvaluSkills into your academic programs, be it your undergraduate or graduate programs with course-embedded assessments, or using it for your faculty and staff development. You can use it as a pre and post, or at the end of the program, or as an ongoing soft skills assessment and development tool. Now, Christina will be covering the implementation of the assessment tool and its application shortly in more detail. So, in summary, our EvaluSkills provides you with a customizable, flexible assessment instrument. The assessment comes with standardized rubrics to improve objectivity and consistency across evaluations. When you sign up to use the service, you will have an administrator access to manage the entire process. And as I mentioned earlier, the reporting of the results for the individual student, the student cohort group, and the action plan to sustain strengths and improve weaknesses is the value you receive from the EvaluSkills tool. And here comes Christina. Please take it away.
Okay, thank you, Alimaa. That was a good overview of, you know, and I think a little bit we might be preaching to the choir here, because you all obviously know the importance of your students having soft skills as they enter the workplace. So let me go ahead and start from this part. Alimaa, before I get started, can you just confirm that I'm on the EvaluSkills feature slide?
Yes, we see
Okay,
EvaluSkills feature slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. So I also I'll put myself on here so you can see me talking, but Alimaa did a great job of explaining why we've designed this and how it aligns with your specific learning outcomes or the mission of preparing your career-ready graduates. Now I'm going to talk about what the service looks like, how you would use it, and then how you can use it to diagnose strengths and weaknesses in your students' performance, and how you can develop those soft skills to improve their future success. So with that, Alimaa mentioned flexible, customizable instruments, and we're going to be showing you a little bit more of that in a minute. But the EvaluSkills database has over 200 items of different types of soft skills, which you can search. You can mix and match these into different instruments that match your learning outcome objectives. So each one of these, for example, here on the screen, we see adaptability, we see change leadership, we see envisioning. Each of those is going to have a definition and then sample statements and behaviors for each level of performance, from exceptional to unsatisfactory. And that's nice because it really does reduce the subjectivity. If Alimaa and I are both rating another colleague using this system, we both have an idea of what average performance is without it being subject to our own interpretation. One of the nice features about it, because I'm guessing that many of you have seen 360-degree evaluations before, this platform allows you to create different instruments for different groups. So if you have different groups of participants, whether that be for your faculty and staff that you're going to be using for training. Perhaps you have some graduate students that you want to do pre and post tests to measure their development, or you want to try this at a certain point in a student's career after they've done an internship. You can create different instruments and administer those at different times. And then in the management system, this graphic here is showing you a pre and post test score. Say you started with your master's students and you administered this evaluation at the beginning of their program, and then again at graduation after they've had a little bit more experience in the workplace. You can see average scores, where they move, where their strengths and weaknesses lie, and be able to demonstrate achievement of those learning outcomes. So that's a little bit kind of what makes it different. Now I want to show you how it works. Before we get started, let me just go over a few definitions. As I'm talking, assessment item, those are going to be the different soft skills that are being measured. Like I said, we have a huge database of items that you can mix and match, but you can search and categorize those and make your own instruments. The instrument template is actually a set of different items put together that you intend to administer to your participants. And we call it a template because you can just store that and then use it. You can modify it, but it's always there in your menu. And then when you add participants and you give it a due date and you launch it, then we call it an assessment. And then that will go in your menu of assessments that are either in progress or completed, and be able to run reports on those. The participants are the people being evaluated. So those might be students, they might be faculty, they might be employees if you're running a business and you want to do this assessment on them, but those are the participants. And then the participant will name evaluators, people who have firsthand experience of their performance in the workplace. So those could be mentors and advisors, they could be professors, they could be internship supervisors, other classmates that they've done group work with, but really anyone who has experience with them. And then at the end, Alimaa will be going over the different reports that summarize the data that you gather from the assessment process. Now, I like a graphic analogy to really sink in your mind how this works. So as we create an instrument for an assessment, I think of it as making a pizza. So, if I go to my favorite pizzeria here in Gillette, Wyoming, that's Pizza Corello. They're fantastic. They've got several pizzas on the menu, and they're really, some of them are my favorites. But if I want to make my own, I can do that. Same thing with the EvaluSkills. The ingredients to add to your own pizza are the different skills. So if you want to search and your program is really focused on teamwork, or it's focused on accountability and responsibility, whatever those skills are that you're doing, you can mix and match those, search the database, and add them into your own. So that's what a good way to think of it. And then here, those instrument templates that are created, there are some that are the pizzas that are already on the menu. So once you log into EvaluSkills, you'll see here, for example, there's a DBA workplace skills, there's leadership 360-degree, leading professional teams. Those are ones you can explore. You can download an instrument report and see what's included in those. And then if you're not satisfied, you can make some substitutions. You can say, well, I need a little bit more of this, a little less of this, or create your own from scratch. So those are our instruments. Now, we talked about the assessment items. Here's an example of one, and I just wanted to show you what the rubric looks like. So, something that's intangible. Is someone a troubleshooter? Well, what does that even mean? We have a definition here, is that's the ability to work through issues to identify and solve root cause problems. And then for each of the levels of performance, exceptional, excellent, competent, marginal, and unsatisfactory, we have some sample behaviors, and that helps the evaluator think about this person and their recollection of working with them and choose the most appropriate level. So if this is someone who's always working on logic puzzles and really has that innate sense of digging to the bottom of something, I think they're a 5, and it's kind of backed up by this rubric. Okay, I'll take a quick breath. I'm kind of covering a lot of ground here, but so that's from the administrator setting up your instrument templates and then launching an assessment with your participants when you're ready to go. Now I want to walk you through what it looks like from the participant side of things. So and the participants, they can be from different groups, but say this is an incoming cohort of graduate business students, and they're all assigned this early in their program. Oh, I'm going to turn off my webcam. It says I've got a slow network connection. Okay, so I'm an incoming student into a program, and I'm gathering feedback from people I've worked with in the past, people I volunteer with, people in my program. The first thing that will happen is I will get an email that's alerted me that I'm part of the EvaluSkills assessment. And from that, I will log into the platform. I can upload a profile picture, much like I would on social media. And that's helpful so that when I invite evaluators and they see Christina Perry's asked you to give feedback, they'll have my picture and they'll know, oh, especially if they're doing several, it kind of helps them keep things straight. I can enter evaluators and choose. We tell people, ask more than you think will give feedback, because, the more the merrier. Not, you won't get feedback from everybody, but you really do want a well-rounded perspective of people working with you, so that you don't have any blind spots. And another thing is that the administrator can also enter evaluators. So if you don't want the participant entering their own evaluators, you can set them up. If you have 5 people that are going to be evaluating everybody, you could set them up. So then I'm a participant, I'm logged in, I've entered some evaluators. I can go ahead and download that instrument that I'm being assessed on, so that I can see, oh, what are the skills that are important to me, and what are those excellent behaviors? What, really consider how I might be performing. I can complete a self-evaluation and go through it and rate myself critically in each of those areas, and then use my scores of how I rated myself to compare against how my team saw me. And that might help uncover blind spots if I think I'm really strong in an area, but my feedback is less favorable. Then the assessment takes, we ask for a couple weeks to get gathered enough feedback so that we can, remind people if they don't have time to do it right away. But once the assessment closes, or I have enough feedback from my evaluators, I can run a participant report, and that's going to highlight my strengths, my areas for improvement, and give me a template for an action plan for personal development. And the action plan is available in that participant report, and it's also available in the platform. When I log in, I can go to an assessment, click on an action plan, see my weaknesses, and start developing actions that I'll take, a timeline for doing them, and name someone that can help keep me accountable. So it's a nice feature to really take it past diagnosing to covering up actionable steps you can take. Okay. So just to sum up here, the participants' responsibilities: they'll create a profile. They can do this on their phone or on their tablet, on their computer. They'll invite evaluators, 3, 4, 5. It really depends. For undergraduate students, they might not have that many people and that much work experience, but getting feedback from different types of groups does help. And then they can do a self-assessment, which they will compare their self-rated scores against those of their evaluators. Okay, so that's kind of covering the participant side. Now let's say that I'm a participant and I've invited Alimaa to be my evaluator. Since she's worked with me for 5 years now, she knows how I do things, and I want to see what she has to say. First of all, it's important to know that I won't know which feedback came from Alimaa. When I list my 5 or 6 or more evaluators, their scores are going to be averaged together, and any comments that they write on each of the sections, they're encouraged to write written comments that'll help me grow. Those are just going to be listed, so I won't know who gave me what. But so I've invited Alimaa. She's my evaluator. The first thing that will happen is she will also get an email that says Christina Perry has asked for your feedback in a 360-degree assessment. And she can log in and set up a password where she can see any other evaluations she's been asked to do, and kind of have a home page to manage any assessments that she's doing. If she goes in and she's also, if you're a professor or you've done different evaluations for different students, you'll see all those that are pending and all that are completed on your dashboard. For new assessments that you're asked to do, you can run the instrument report, and that's a PDF copy that shows which skills are being assessed and gives you the rubric. So if you want to mull it over a little bit before you start, you can run that copy. And then as she's evaluating me, she'll go through each area, click which score she gives me, write any comments. She can save it and come back later, or she can submit it and it goes into the pool of my results. So here, this slide, this is just a screenshot from my phone of taking an evaluation. You can scroll through each item one by one. So for here, this evaluator is asked if this person does not play favorites. And this is part of fairness. It's a 4-part question. They can go through and read each statement and behavior, highlight in green the one that they feel is most appropriate, and then hit next and go on to the next one. They can skip. They can come back to them later, but this helps them really give honest feedback. So once they've made it through the whole assessment, and usually we advise somewhere, in the nature of a dozen items. You really don't want to bog it down too much. You could have some open-ended questions. You'll review it. If you want to add a comment that particularly explain an exceptionally high or an exceptionally low rating. So you can say, for a 5, I really like it when she does this, and this is a good example. Or if this person is unsatisfactory, maybe give some instances that they could have improved and help them grow. Once I've submitted and then the minimum number of evaluations are completed, that participant can run their individual results report. They do need to have at least 2 external evaluators do it just to protect confidentiality. And then, as I was saying, the participant will not know who gave what feedback. So with that, Alimaa, I'm going to hand the control back to you so that you can talk about the different reports, the instrument report and the participant report and the group report.
All right. Well, thank you, Christina, for this thorough and wonderful review of how to implement the EvaluSkills and how it's conducted from the participant's perspective, evaluator's perspective, and then the administrator's perspective will come in and running the reports as well. So do you see my screen, the EvaluSkills
Yep.
reports? Wonderful.
Yep, you're all set up.
Thank you. So after evaluators and students, well, let me see if I can share my video. If I start getting the slow connection message, I'll disconnect, but until then, let me have it. So after evaluators and students have submitted their responses, right, the reports are available for download. So before we start talking about the reports, let me ask you another question. And the question is, what would the primary goal of using a soft skills assessment be at your individual program? Would that be for accreditation, for employer requirements, for improving your programs, or for developing your individual learners? I see the results coming in. And well, thank you for giving a really good thought into answering your questions. This question so far, I have 55% of you looking into soft skills assessment for developing your learners' soft skills, and competencies. About 20% for program improvement, about 20% for accreditation, and so 45% of you voted. Well, let me get to at least half of you. So numbers are still going up. And well, let me close and share the results with you. So they've been going up and down a little. And as you can see now, 52% student development in the lead. Program development is essentially tied to meeting accreditors' requirements, and then 9% for employer requirements. So back to slides now. And then, now we see, the purpose of you wanting to conduct self-assessment, right? Assessment of soft skills and competencies of your learners and for your programmatic learning outcomes. So let me get straight into the reports. And through these reports, the first and foremost important thing is that we help you identify, as was mentioned by Christina, the strengths and weakness areas of your learner, right, the participant, and any gaps that might exist between the individual learner results and the group results. Now, we also help you see where you stand as a program vis-a-vis these critical job readiness or soft skill competency attainments. So in that sense, we are providing you with a solid springboard from which you can start improving the results of attainment or development of the skills, be it for the individual learner or your academic program. Christina talked about the instrument report briefly, but let me refresh your memory that this is the report. It could be downloaded by the participant or the learner, the evaluator or the program administrator. So I'm using the participant as Christina was doing it interchangeably with the learner, the student, or an employee if you are representing a company or an organization. Now, the instrument report contains the list of assessment items that have been selected to create an assessment, right? It also contains the evaluation rubrics that Christina so eloquently went through that are used to evaluate each assessment item, be it a particular soft skill or a competency. By providing you with the evaluation rubric that defines behaviors to be exhibited as a sample for rating of 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1, we are offering an instrument that takes away that subjectivity out of the assessment as much as possible. So this is a very good report to review by the evaluators to get a full and better understanding of the assessment items, and the rubrics used for each item to evaluate before they start rating the learner. So just a tip here, before activating a particular assessment and before you start offering it to the learner, please run the instrument report. Download a PDF copy you plan to use. Review all the items and the rubric for each of the items, right? Make sure if there are any changes you want to make, then you make them before launching that new assessment. Now, after the assessment closes, the participant can download the participant report. The participant report contains the learner's self-assessment scores, the average evaluator score, and the group average score. Within the participant report is included the action plan for the individual learner. Now, this is where you're really going to get great value because it shows what the learner's strengths and weaknesses are according to the evaluations, and it prompts for the action items that could be conducted in order to improve the results. So this is really a great tool to use with your individual learners. Now, as an administrator, you can download the group report, which contains the average of the self evaluation scores and the average of the evaluator scores for the group. Also, a breakdown of those who performed significantly higher or lower than the group in each skill. So as a participant, as Christina showed you in the previous section, this is the view you get when you log in into your profile. Once that minimum threshold for the number of evaluators is met and the evaluator feedbacks are completed, that individual report green button will appear in the learner's profile. At that point, the learner can download the participant report as a PDF file, or the report can also be printed. It also shows in the profile that the instrument report is also available. So it is visible to the participant the minute he or she logs into her profile, and they can download it at any point to refresh their memory as to what the instrument actually is. So we try to use a lot of different visuals in the report, right? Understanding that different people have different ways to receive, perceive, and digest information. So one of the graphics we have in the participant report looks just like this. And the list of all the assessment items on which learners are being evaluated are listed on the left-hand side, as you can see. And then the green horizontal bars show the average scores received from the learners' evaluators, average of the evaluators, right? So for the group that is being assessed, the blue line shows the group average score, which makes it easy to highlight relative strengths and areas for improvement. Now, the action plan portion of the participant report will be based on the opportunities for improvement in different competency areas identified in this graph. Now, for each soft skill item or a competency being reported, we provide the self-evaluation score compared against the external evaluator's scores and comments, as Christina explained. Now, this is an example, for example, of the emotional intelligence being a competency. The graph shows how many people rated the learner at 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then the mean evaluator rating shows at 3.8. Majority of the evaluators, though, thought that this learner was proficient or excellent at emotional intelligence. The top left corner shows the results for self-evaluation, if they've done it. Now, this learner scored themselves at 4.0, which is slightly higher than the evaluator's average for the learner, 3.8, right? Both the self-score and the evaluator's average are significantly below the average rating for the group, which is 4.15. Now, all of the participants in that particular evaluation using this particular assessment constitute that group. Now, the action plan is included within the participant reports, as mentioned by Christina. And given all the data that have been collected so far, right, the action plan picks out those strengths and weaknesses as compared to the evaluator mean. And then, so this highlights the areas of strengths to sustain and areas of weaknesses to improve or develop or grow up on. The action plan gives the learner very detailed instructions on how to read and how to use the action plan, including asking the learner to enter a timeline for activities to hold them accountable. So this, the action plan portion of the participant report gives you space and direction and how to utilize this information. In this example, being open-minded was identified as an area of weakness. Now, the action plan gives the participant a definition of the competency and space to type in or write in specific action items or activities the participant is going to undertake in order to mitigate this weakness. It asks the learner to enter a timeline for this action item. And we all know any goals without a timeline or a deadline just turn into wishes, right? So this is quite helpful. And then the last part of that action plan prompt encourages the participant to find someone, perhaps a mentor, a supervisor, or even a peer who could keep the participant accountable for those action items, right? And really giving them the tools they need to utilize this information for improvement. So as you can see, the action plan can be edited and downloaded right in the online platform. So now the administrators, they log in to instruments to access the group results. For each instrument, administrators can check progress, see participants, send reminders, and run the reports. The administrators can download the group report as soon as all the evaluations have all been completed. You can use the soft skills assessment as a pre and post test for your program's evaluation. Comparing the results of your incoming students to the outgoing provides you with information on how your learners have improved upon their soft skills competencies as a result of your programmatic offerings and maybe training opportunities you have provided to the student throughout their academic career. So you are going to use the group reports for measuring your programmatic learning outcomes related to the soft skills. For example, critical thinking and verbal communications, or career readiness skills such as team player, functions well under pressure, or as Christina showed in her example, does not play favorites, fair, and so forth. Group reports show the data for the entire group, the participants whom you asked to take this particular assessment, right? Group reports provide information about your program's overall strengths and development opportunities. Now, in this example, our group is strong in accountability, but could use some help in valuing diversity, right? So this shows from the strongest to the weakest, or the highest to the lowest scores. Group report also shows for each competency, where do my students score themselves as a group, as a whole, versus their external evaluators. So in this example, for the competency of dealing with uncertainty and ambiguity, the external evaluators rated my group at 4.11 based on the evaluations by 233 evaluators. Now the students self-evaluated themselves, and the average self-score of our students fell at 3.85, slightly underestimating themselves, right? Now here you can also see the frequency of ratings. Group report also gives you the breakdown of results by participant, noting who individually scored significantly above the group average or below. If one of the goals of the program is to improve the individual student attainment of the soft skills or competencies, then you can identify the students or the group of students with whom you could spend more time and work more closely to improve their particular soft skills or competencies. So the group report provides you with information not only for the entire group as a whole, but also helps you identify the students who are on the lower spectrum of scoring and could benefit from more individual attention. So in summary, I know we're a little over time. Our participant reports are focused more on the personal development, right? Participant reports help the learner to see where their strengths and weaknesses may lay, as identified by quantitative data and evaluations provided by external evaluators. And also there's self-evaluation involved there too. Now, reports teach learners how to accept feedback in the spirit of learning more about their soft skills and competency attainments based on how others observe those behaviors. With the use of participant reports, learners create action plans, right, to sustain strengths and mitigate weaknesses, and practice how to holding oneself accountable with specific actions and activities. Now, the group reports are used for continuous improvement. You can identify developmental needs of your group and consider which participants might be good coaches or mentors for those who rated lower in certain skills. You can really use the results in many ways and the way it might meet your particular program's needs. You can find blind spots when your participants rate themselves higher than external evaluators, right? And as Christina talked about it, you can use pre and post tests to measure improvement in employment readiness skills. So with that, we would like to open the floor to your questions. Thank you very much for sticking around until now. And Denise, take it away. What questions
Thanks,
have we been
Mom.
getting?
Yes, we have several really good questions, and I'm going to try to get them all in and let you two discuss these. One of the questions is, can I break the competency score in categories? Peers, supervisors, subordinates.
That's a great question. And you guys, whoever came up with that was reading our minds, because right now, no, but the next round that we're developing this summer, yes. We really thought that that might help highlight if you see that, oh, your supervisors or people higher up rate you very well, but people who've reported you not so much, then we've got an issue that we need to develop. So to answer your question, we are developing that capacity for the next version that'll be coming out later this summer.
Thanks, Christina. Thank you. Another question is, does this integrate into the other various Peregrine offerings?
Well, it's a separate platform. So if we did an integration into your program, what we would do is a soft integration. You know, it wouldn't be the same as some of our other assessments. We would just have a link to your instruments where students could click on that, but it's going to take them to the EvaluSkills platform, which is it's separate from, say, the Peregrine comprehensive assessments. So it is in a different platform, and then your administrator would have a separate login to that platform to run the reports and you know, create their instruments, launch the assessments.
And along that same line, Christina, there was a question on whether or not EvaluSkills will be a service that they can integrate into their LMS system.
Yes, it can definitely be integrated, and we're actually doing that with some schools in Africa. This starting next month, I believe, where it's an assignment in their Canvas, and the students will just click on it, and then they'll create their registration. But it's not something that they would do in the learning management system. It's they can link in and create their registration from it, but then they'll have to click a link to go to the EvaluSkills platform. I hope that answers it.
Great, thank you. Another question is, could you use the soft skills evaluator to evaluate class projects or assignments using rubrics already developed by the faculty?
Ah, yeah, actually, we when we have these instruments that are already created and assessment items, but you can also go in and add your own assessment items, and those can be Likert scale or they can be open-ended. But if you have a rubric you're already using and you want to create some different assessment items for that class project, absolutely, you would just go in, log in, and add assessment item, and then create a instrument template from your own. So it does have that capacity as well.
Awesome. Another question is, do you handle these assessments differently for undergraduate students than you do for graduate students?
Um, that's it's interesting in that the process itself does not change, but of course, an undergraduate student isn't going to have the same experience. So we're finding that for undergraduate students, it would be really difficult to do a pre-test and post-test because they're coming into, generally they're coming into their programs without much, if any, workplace experience and probably not enough to get the feedback that they're going to need. So for undergraduates, you might want to hold this more at the end as they graduate, or if there's some sort of experiential learning you're doing in your program where they do an internship or they do some projects with other people, that you could combine that into something a little more interactive. Whereas for your graduate students, if you wanted to do a pre-test and post-test at the end of the it's not really test, pre-assessment, post-assessment, you could do that. For people that are working professionals doing a graduate program, it works hand in hand because they can use their colleagues that are already working with them to evaluate their skills. So it's really the selection of evaluators that's going to change things for undergraduate to graduate students.
All right, great. As I mentioned, we have a lot of questions that keep coming in, so I'm going to try to cover them all. And if
I'll try
not,
to be briefer.
yeah, no, you're fine. I just want to let everybody on the audience know that if you haven't had your question answered yet, we're still getting to them.
And we will also do follow-up. So these do save in our chat log, and we can reach out to you afterwards if we don't get to you.
Yes. And so could one of you talk a little bit more about the number of evaluators that are needed to complete an assessment, whether there's a minimum and a maximum that is allowed to be evaluators?
Go ahead,
Really?
Kristen.
Yeah, Alimaa, sorry, I'm jumping all over it.
Go ahead, go
But
ahead.
no, the minimum is 2. You have to have at least 2 external evaluators. But keep in mind, you're not going to get very well-rounded feedback. It's not really a 360 of just 2 people are looking at you. So we encourage people to invite 5 to 10. But no, we've had participants invite 20 or more. Not all of them might complete the evaluation. So, but if you have a dozen people giving you feedback, that's a very valuable tool. So no, there is no maximum. You just really want to limit it to people who actually have experience with you. If you're a student in a lecture hall with 400 other students, your professor doesn't really know how you perform in these areas. So we encourage people to somewhere in that 5 to 10 area is good feedback.
And if I can add here, Christina had a good point in terms of make sure you have more emails go out to the higher number of evaluators that you expect to receive in return, because people get busy, people travel. So if you are hoping to get at least 2, try and reach out at least to 3, 4 other people. And if requirement by the program is 6, then try to reach out to 8, 9 people, just kind of giving a little room for people who may not be available. And another thing is you do your self-evaluation, but especially at a graduate level or at programs that have more residency or internship components built into the program. And sometimes you have, multiple people working for the same, especially in the case of healthcare internships and so forth. Then you can use peer evaluation. And I do have programs that use peer evaluation. And evaluating your peer is a little tricky thing, right? You want to give all the glowing feedback and review, but the way some of the program administrators handling it, they're looking more for the quality in the review and not at the rating and the score that a peer is providing for their participant. So that could be, there are many new ways we're learning how schools are approaching it and implementing it. So that could be another example of perhaps utilizing peers.
All right, great. Great explanations. Can you explain if there's a difference between the evaluator average and the group average?
Okay, sure. Yeah, and our terminology might, be a little fluid right now. But the evaluator average is my group of evaluators, how they rated me. So if I had 5 people give feedback on me, that average score would be my evaluator average. The group average would be, say I'm one student of 20 that's doing this assessment. How did all my peers' evaluator scores average together? So as a group, as a whole, if the group averaged a 4 on this, but my average score is a little lower, then I know that I'm a little bit behind. That might be a weakness.
Okay. And another really great question is that as an administrator, would that administrator have the ability to turn on or off various features, such as if they aren't interested in having the action plan for their students, can they actually turn that part of EvaluSkills off?
Well, the action plan, it wouldn't be turned off, but I mean, you could advise participants that they don't need to complete it. It's something that when they log in, the participant logs into the platform and they go to their assessment, there's an action plan there that you could require or not. So if that's a requirement, the students could complete it, download it, submit it. If it's not, it's there and they don't need to use it.
And is there any dispersion measure such as standard deviation for each competency score?
Yes, and Alimaa was actually showing that on the group report. So, and the administrator can choose what significance level they like. But for each item, they'll get a breakdown that the group's average score was, say, a 3.8. And then I want to choose everybody who fell within a 0.5 either side of it, or I can choose a full point or a 0.2, and I can break that down. And then for each of the those skills, you're going to see a list of all the participants who scored below the significance level and then all those that scored above it. So that information is given to the administrator.
All
And I have the
righty.
slide up, the one
Yeah,
that you're
thank you.
referring to.
Thank you.
There's a couple of questions that might be better answered in our follow-up. I'll let you guys decide that. One of them is, can you give an example of action plans using in a corporate field? And can you group soft skills into larger categories? Example, statistics or quantitative analysis and accounting, all
Yeah.
under one.
Yeah, actually, that's a new feature that we've also released. You guys are getting all the good stuff here. We have a learning outcomes report that we're developing that will also be released this summer, where you can group. Say my program has 5 different outcomes and they're soft skills related to quantitative matters or whatever. I can group them. That might be learning outcome number 1, and then I have another one too that's based on communication. So that's where I might do my public speaking and my written communication or whatever those skills are. And then we can group them by those different outcomes and give a report that, okay, in the communications, this is their score. In the ethics and accountability, this was their score. So yeah, we are developing that as well so that you can group them.
And if I may add, in case, so these are soft skills and interpersonal skills or competencies. And if you are looking into knowledge-based assessment, we do offer a subject-specific assessments for learning outcomes related to particular subject areas, be it accounting, marketing, finance, or business program, or and so forth. So if you wanted to learn more about it, please feel free to reach out to us. And our contact information is info@peregrineglobal.com. Here it is. And we'll be more than happy to share information and guest access to the assessment tool for knowledge-based standardized exams.
Thank you, ladies. Christina, to go a little bit further on that question and answer you just provided, there's also a question about the group reports asking, can the data be broken down by classification, which I think you kind of covered, but what about by major?
By major, what you would probably do in that case would be to create different instruments for different measures. I mean, or if you're using the same instrument, you could either do different skills for different majors and then compare where they overlap, or you could have the same template but launch it as different assessments for different majors and then compare those. We do have a comparative report. So if I'm a business program and I want to compare my marketing students against my accounting students and see where their relative strengths and weaknesses overlap, I could do that. So yes, the solution there would really be to launch them as different groups.
Okay. And is there a way to test someone's skills without the use of evaluators?
Not in this platform. I mean, the purpose of it is it's a 360 degrees. It's to see the skills that we can't diagnose within ourselves. So, this is relying on feedback from multiple people. I don't know, Alma, have you heard of ways to assess soft skills without external evaluation?
Well, that's where the soft skills assessment comes in, and the 360 is perfect because, as you've seen, we'll provide an opportunity for the learner to self-assess. And as you can see, what you self-assess in terms of your scores relative to the outside observers' evaluation, they don't usually map too well, right? Some people overestimate themselves, some people underestimate, and that actually provides extra insight into that individual person's ability to be a fair assessor or self-reflector of own skills and abilities. So you could use self-evaluation on as just its own tool, but at the same time, to really get a full picture and get the best benefit and value out of the value skills would be to use the external evaluators in combination with individual self-assessment.
We have several questions pertaining to the price. Some are asking price per student, some are talking about the site license information. Could you cover that a little bit?
Yeah. Okay, so it's interesting because we've been running 360-degree evaluations for business and industry for over a decade now, but we've done a pricing that's a little bit lower for higher education. So the prices here that you see are per participant per assessment. So if I'm doing 100 or fewer students, employees, whomever per year that are going through this, the cost is $45 per participant, and they can have as many evaluators as they want, but that will include your customization of your instrument, your login, so that you can run all the reports, all that type of thing. So this, and then as you increase the volume, it lowers the price per participant.
And I just want to, as Christina mentioned, the price is per participant. So assessment price is per assessment per participant. But as Christina mentioned, it's all inclusive.
Perfect. And if you still have questions on that, as Christina and Alimaa have mentioned, certainly reach out to us on our info email that's provided on the screen, and we'll be happy to visit with you further about that. I think that covers several questions that have recently popped into the chat bar here regarding the pricing. There is a good question where someone asks, what is the rate of return on evaluators in general? Do you have any thoughts on that, Christina?
It's anecdotal, just because I've been administering this for our pilot groups. The system is set up so that when you invite the evaluators, they do actually get 3 reminders before the assessment closes. So maybe they don't get around to it in the first week or so, but I would say for the most part, if people have invited 5 evaluators, they'll generally get 4 back. It's not 100%, and you don't necessarily need everyone's feedback, but we've seen groups that have named quite a few and gotten 80-90% of those back. We've had some people invite 2 or 3 evaluators and get none, and that's just really, the participant has to know that they're inviting someone who has experience and feels comfortable giving feedback.
And you also have the ability to send reminders.
Yeah. The system sends a reminder every few days, but then if you see, oh, okay, I'm logged in and I see this person needs a reminder, I can send a reminder link. I can reach out to them and say, can you do this? So yeah, there are follow-up methods.
Perfect. Okay, do you have time for a few more?
Well, it is at the top of the hour now, but maybe one or two. And
Okay, I have one more that I'd like to have you talk about, and it has a couple questions within one. The question is this available to students throughout their tenure? Once registered, how long do they have access? Also, are badges or other markers available to use on resumes that employers would appreciate?
well, just as for the timeline, the participant will be able to log into it as a user. Um, they've set up their account, they can always refer back to it, they can rerun the report, the participant report, but they won't be you know doing another evaluation with it. Each assessment that is launched is one round. So once you've received your feedback, you've run your report, you can have access to it for as long as you want, but you won't be starting over and trying it again unless it's launched as another assessment. And as for the badges, no, we don't. And that might be something to look into, because we're seeing this, the sort of LinkedIn recommendations or badges or things that distinguish people on their resume. So that's a great idea.
We don't have badges yet, but as with all of our other instruments, students can use the results or the information as part of proof having achieved certain competencies, right, in soft skills. So that is something that it's an external evaluation by the peers, by the evaluators. So something that they could utilize as part of their job application portfolio or their backstory when they're applying for certain jobs that require particular career readiness skills.
Perfect. So with that, since we are at the top of the hour, Alimaa, would you be able to put the slide back up that gives the email address for additional questions should they want to reach out? In case we
Absolutely.
didn't
Oh,
answer the question.
Yeah, and I'm encouraging anyone who's interested, download the handouts, explore those. That'll just give you a sample of an instrument. And like I said, we would work with you to customize one that matches your learning outcomes or your mission. And it'll show you a redacted participant report, so you can learn a bit more about the data, and then just a general flyer about the service. But we will be following up with links and more information.
and please, yeah, feel free to reach out to info@peregrineglobal.com. And if you had colleagues or team members who weren't able to join us today, as I've mentioned, we do have another session tomorrow at the same time. Let them know and encourage them to join. And if they're not able to join us tomorrow, feel free to reach out to us and set up a GoToWebinar or meeting for your individual team members, for your individual programs, and we'll be more than happy to set it up and schedule it for you at that time. And with that, thank you, ladies. Christina, thank you, Denise, for a wonderful management of the Q&A session. And thank you for all the wonderful questions and coming to join us and learn more about assessing and developing soft skills. Please feel free to remember, answer the survey, one question survey. And thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.